Emily, Jen, I was going to just put this track bar on the Jeep, but I thought this would be a great time for me to tell you a story about the track bar. And it's going to be informative, and it's going to be fun.
I hate your stories.
You know what makes story time really fun? A campfire.
What a tool.
There we go. All right. You know what? I'm going to kill some lights so we have some nice ambiance.
That's not even a real campfire.
How's that look?
Worst idea ever.
I can't see anything.
All right. I'll turn them back on. You know what? It'll still be fun.
That thing burns me and my dad's gonna gut you like a fish.
Are we done yet?
We're just trying to have fun here. Now, can either one of you tell me what this part is?
We don't care.
That's exactly right, Jen. This is a factory JK track bar. Now, what we have here is TeraFlex's new heavy-duty adjustable track bar. Now, the first thing you're going to notice about the two is the difference in the girth. You'll also notice the, moving right along, next thing you'll notice is this adjusting sleeve. Now, the adjusting sleeve makes it so that we can lengthen that track bar to compensate for any lift that we might put on the Jeep. Let's just take a look at how this stock track bar reacts to a 3-inch lift and 37-inch tires. I think you're going to be surprised. Hey, come here. You guys come in here and take a look at this.
We have to.
Yeah, you want to look and see how this track bar bends and warps back and forth as we work that steering wheel. Well, any kind of movement in that track bar is going to translate into a loose feel in that steering wheel. You don't want that. That looseness can also transfer into death wobble.
You're so stupid. You're embarrassing yourself.
Have you ever had death wobble? That's why I had to say it in my scary voice. All right, there's another thing that'll happen with that track bar. If we look at how that axle is centered under the Jeep, we'll see we've got a problem. Let's take a look at that. Just to give us a little visual of how this tire is centered under the Jeep, let's take a look at this. So that's how far that side of the tire is sticking out from the fender flare on this side. Let's take a look at the other side. Remember, we were right on the edge of that tire. On this side, do the same drill here, and look at that. We've got like 1.5 inches sticking out. The tire sticking out of the flare on this side more. So that axle is actually no longer centered under the Jeep. If we think of the, say this is the Jeep and here's your axle underneath it, they're shifting like that, and that's what made that tire stick out. So if this is the track bar, here's your Jeep, your track bar is tied to the axle down here. When we lift that Jeep, we think of that as a radius of a circle. As we lift that Jeep up, that axle swings under. So that's why we have to have an adjustable track bar. When we lifted it, now we can lengthen that track bar out and bring the axle back under the Jeep and square things up. Let's get this track bar installed. Before I put it on, I'd like to do a couple of quick things to it. We're just going to loosen up this turnbuckle and wind it out a couple of turns to make sure it moves easily. It's a lot easier to do it when it's off the Jeep than when it's on. So we'll take an 18 millimeter on one end and a 15 on the other. Just loosen these up a little bit. That should work. Now, as it turns out, it's probably just as easy to do this track bar on the ground as it is putting it up in the air, because we pretty much need to support the axle. Has a captured nut on the axle side. And on the other side, we're going to have to hold the nut on the back of that one. Just 21 millimeters. And that was hard. This is really a great visual. We've got the track bar off it. We just wanted to give you an idea of what that track bar's job in life really is. Go ahead, Emily, and just turn that wheel back and forth. You notice how the axle, the tires are hardly even turning at all, but that body is just shifting from side to side. So there's a tremendous amount of load on that track bar when you're turning. especially when you're stopped. That's why it was bowing when we saw it earlier. There's really only one way this can go on. You're going to have the bend end to clear the diff on that side. And the other end is going to just drop down into this axle bracket. And this is where a little helping hand will go a long way. We'll have somebody go up in front in the steering wheel, wiggle it back and forth, and it'll just line this track bar up for us. You probably don't need to start it or anything. Just give it a twist and I'll tell you, see that? There we go, a little bit more right there. She just turned that steering wheel, it lines it up, we put the bolt in. So it makes it really easy. Okay, you're good up there, Emily. We'll start the nuts on both of them. And because we're on the ground, it's okay for us to just go ahead and tighten this up. Well, that's pretty much it. All we need to do is adjust it. To do that, this adjusting sleeve, we'll be able to turn it just by hand here with those clamps out of the way. And it's kind of an interesting thing with these. You can turn them, and all of a sudden it'll get real easy to turn. When it gets easy to turn, your track bar is pretty much in the neutral position, and that axle is going to be really pretty close to being centered. So I'll just turn them until I feel it starting to get hard again. There we go. Just got all easy. And then I'll just stop, and we'll go out and measure it. Make sure we're squared up. We're just going to measure between the frame and some point here and decide if our frame is square with this tire. So there's top of that speed bump's a good spot. We're just going to catch it on his right there. We'll measure out to this tread on the tire. So there's different lugs. We're on the most outer tread, and it looks like we're 15.5 inches there. Yeah, 15.5. Go measure the other side. Okay, we picked the same spot on the Jeep, and you could measure off the tower anywhere you want, just same spot on both sides. Then we come out here, we've got the outermost lug on that one. We're at 16.25 on this one. So we've got a little bit of movement to do. Nobody told me there was going to be math in this. Okay, here we go. Okay, just keep adjusting until you get the same measurement on both sides and that axle's centered. Okay, we're just going to tighten up the clamps on our adjusting sleeve. What we do want to make sure is that we don't have these guys positioned so that they'll make contact with the shock. When the axle compresses or goes up, there's going to be some movement here. So just put them up out of the way. They're not going to tag your control arm bracket here. We want to have easy access for our air tools or our electric impact. We'll just tighten them up. One other thing. When you tighten these guys, they have got to be tight. This is a big piece of DOM with a little slit in it, because this sleeve needs to be strong so that we don't have any movement in it. But you've got to tighten these things, so just really crush them. Don't be afraid to get all over it. The last step we need to do is to just straighten our steering wheel. It's really a pretty easy process. We just got this turnbuckle here with 15mm nuts on it. What we're going to do is straighten the tires to the rear tires and just get it so it looks like it's going straight down the road. Then we're just going to do a quick preliminary set with this. With somebody watching the steering wheel, just to tell you when it looks like it's pretty level up there. You should get it pretty close. We're just going to go run it down the road, make sure it's straight. If it is straight, we can tighten it up. If not, we'll just tweak a little bit till it is, tighten it up, and that's it. Well, that was a pretty good install, you guys. Why don't you guys come over with me? Let's take a picture just to show kind of like the team that actually did this track bar. Yeah, come over and stand by me. Hey, Emily, you come over?